Lesson 106. Kalamos. The primary meaning of this word is a piece of cane that grows in a, moist area. I'm no expert on plants, but the basic idea is that it's similar to a bamboo, but perhaps smaller. A bamboo can be really thick, and you can cut down bamboo and build things with it. But if it's thinner, you can do other things with it. So if you have a very thin piece of cane, and when we use the word reed here, that's the kind of plant we're talking about, is a bamboo or cane. So if you have that kind of plant, and it's really small and thin, you can make a pen out of it. In the ancient world, they could dip that in ink and write with it. And so that's why kalamos also means pen. And in Latin, it's calamus, C-A-L-A-M-U-S, basically the same word. And for those of you who have ever played the saxophone or the clarinet, that's the same way that we get a reed for those instruments, is they take a big piece of bamboo and they cut it into segments, and then they cut that lengthwise into pieces, and then they shave it down, and that's how you make a reed for a reed instrument, such as a clarinet or saxophone. And in fact, that's why they're called reeds, is because they come from a reed plant. And so in general, that's the same kind of plant we're talking about here. That's a kalamos, and that's why it's a pen for writing. Let's take a look at a couple of exercises. In number 1, we have kalamon echo. Notice that the verb echo here means I have. It's first person singular, and it's an action verb, so it can generate a direct object. And that's what we have here with kalamon. Notice that kalamon is the word kalamos, our new word for this lesson, but the ending is changed to omicron nu, so it's kalamon, and that's the form it takes when it's a direct object. Kalamon is the direct object of the verb echo, and so the sentence says, I have a pen. In number 2, the subject is the farmer, that's ho georgos, and the verb is eche, that's third person singular, and so eche says he, she, or it has. It's being negated by uk, which means not, and then we have a direct object here, that's kalamon. Again, that's the direct object form of our new word for this lesson, which is kalamos. So number 2 says, the farmer does not have a pen. In number 3, we have the conjunction hoti joining 2 parts of the sentence. In the first part, we have ho philosophos kalamon eche. And then in the second part, we have kathemeran graphe. So in the first part, the subject is the philosopher, that's ho philosophos, and the verb is eche, that's third person singular, so it means he, she, or it has. Notice the epsilon iota ending, that's the third person singular ending for the verb, and then kalamon is the direct object. Notice the direct object ending at the end of the word kalamon. Kathemeran is an adverb that means every day or daily. And then we have the verb graphe, which means he, she, or it writes, or he, she, or it is writing. That's the third person singular form of the verb grapho. So the sentence as a whole reads like this. The philosopher has a pen because he writes every day. And so in the second part of the sentence, when we see graphe, we know that we're going to translate it as he writes. We need that pronoun he because it's referring back to the philosopher who was mentioned in the first part of the sentence. So here, the first part of the sentence is giving us some context. In the first part of the sentence, the philosopher has a pen, and so then in the second part of the sentence, when it talks about someone writing, we know that it's referring back to that same subject, the philosopher. So the first part of exercise 3 sets up the context for the second part of the sentence. So that's a good exercise for working with how one part of a sentence can help you understand the context and help you get a feel for how to translate the sentence.